Welcome to Go For Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon. You all know my co-host, John. John, how you doing today?
Hey, everyone. Doing okay. Thank you.
And tonight we got another Army son of a bitch. Gentlemen. But, you know, he was in, I tell you, Rob, this is Rob Main, everybody. He was in two different areas of the Army, and I think that's really cool. I think it's badass and everything, and we're going to get into that. But before we begin, to let everybody know, this weekend I went to a VA, a veterans business networking place out of Houston. And, you know, the Chamber of Commerce put it on. I'm really glad for that and everything. So we all got to go out and share our business. I gave a lot of my cards out about the podcast and stuff like that. But Rob, I'm going to let you take away right now. Tell us the years you were in and what you did during Desert Storm and when you got out.
All right, how's it going, guys? My name is Rob Main. I was in the military, in the Army, U.S. Army. I was in from 85 to 97. I was a 68 X-ray, which is a FCC fire control computer technician for the Apache, and a 95 Bravo military police. I did 2 tours in Iraq, once in Iraq in the middle of the desert. You know, as far as location, I was in the middle of the desert with the Apaches. And as an MP, I was in Kuwait City. And basically, we just cleared the town out for stragglers and everything else after the war. I deployed from Germany in 1990. Matter of fact, it was December 20th, 1990, from Illesheim, Germany. And the funny thing was that the day of my deployment, I broke my arm because I slipped on some ice walking from the hangar. It was hysterical. Yeah, I broke my arm. They took me to TMC. They put a cast on me, and I walked back to the hangar, and the captain says, "There's the bus, get on it." So I deployed with my arm in a cast, and I was there until May of 91. And then we deployed back to Germany, and then I PCS to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Went to air assault school. And after air assault school, I went to MP school, and after MP school, I went to PLDC, and then transferred to Fort Jackson, and I was there until 97 and got out Thanksgiving Day. So all holidays, all my favor. Just
Okay, well, hold on, wait. I got a question. So you were in Kuwait as an MP.
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever arrest any military guys?
No, I had a few. Well, I don't want to be too disgusting, but yes, I have busted a few MASH unit personnel for fornication. John's laughing.
Only John would laugh at that. I mean, but I would usually make a damn joke about that. But I mean, see, this is what I find fascinating is everybody serves a purpose in the military. I was in supply. John was an engineer. I still don't get that shit yet. And you served as I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry. But and you served as a helicopter. Were you maintenance on the Apaches and all that, or what'd you do on the Apaches?
I was a fire control computer technician. Everything in the front seat of the Apache, the helmet, the hardware, the software, the weaponry, the gun, the missiles, the Hellfires, everything belonged to me.
Did you get to press the buttons?
I have stick time, and yes, after the war was over, when I was Apache, my unit was 4229 AAHR, Advanced Attack Helicopter Regiment. We were known as the Flying Tigers. We're synonymous with the Japanese era way back in 1942. We retained the name, and we have a congressional letter from those guys saying that we can hold the name of Flying Tigers for the 4229 AAHR. That being said, after the war was over, all of our Apache pilots took all of us who were armament, FCC, computer techs, 60 X-rays. They took us up in our respected helicopters, and I will honorably mention my pilot, John Green, from the company, and you can Google us on YouTube and Facebook. But he took me up, and we flew through Iraq, and we found some burned up husk of T-72s, T-74s, T-68s, and we had a shitload of ammo left over. And our colonel, Jerry Saltness, said that he did not want to go back with any ammo. So they allowed us, the 68 X-rays, to burn ammo up on the Apaches.
Shit.
So we lit up all kind of shit.
What the
after
hell? I went to the wrong part of the service. Damn. Okay,
Yeah,
so
That's the first time you've ever said that.
well, I mean, I would have done the helicopter shit. I ain't, I got to give. Okay, I'm gonna give some props out. Okay, so I don't know if any of y'all ever watched the Band of Brothers. Okay,
Oh, definitely. I'm a big fan.
okay. I give the props out to the Army guys. My grandfather, he was in the Army, stormed the beach. Y'all some badass son of bitches. I got to give props out though to the Marines.
Oh yeah,
And I watched the movie The Pacific. I don't know if y'all watched that.
I watched that.
That was some pretty messed up shit. I don't give a
definitely.
shit what anybody's. And so to see what y'all go through and what y'all would be doing, I commend that because I wouldn't have done it. I mean, if I had to, yeah, I would have. I wouldn't have chickened out. But if I got to pick where I was going, it was in the damn Navy. But I got to watch that, and I learned so much what the Army does and what the Marines do alongside with the Navy. And I guess they're going to make something with the Air Force eventually.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, on YouTube, there is if you look up the Desert Storm, the first airwave. There's like an hour long video of the first airwave that somebody had posted and talking about the 715 Air Force, doing their strikes. Because I remember that night so specifically well when I was over there, and it was like January 12th at midnight. We were at stand 2 on the berms, and 21 F-111s flew 20 feet over our heads, heading north into Iraq. And I'll never forget that night. It was a sight, to be seen.
Oh yeah, from a distance, it looked like fireworks with a green glow. It was the damnedest thing. That part of the memory, it was like, oh shit, it started. I mean, I remember aircraft carriers, just jets taking off. All of a sudden, all these people sending out missiles. I was like, golly, ours didn't, because we didn't have the capabilities of being that studly. Even though they consider
But you were a supply ship, though.
But we were right. But we were considered a combat ship, which I'm glad we didn't, because I'm just saying, we would have lost that combat. Being a combat ship. But over there, I got to meet. I got to meet with a bunch of different. Like European, France, all kinds of people over there. But I can honestly say our military was the most badass military of them all. Today, I mean, it's still badass, but we need to get our shit together.
Exactly, yeah.
We really do need to get our shit together because our military is shrinking in a bad way. And but so that's what's going to bring. so everybody, when I post this, it says go for the forgotten war. Let me explain why I put the forgotten war, because it is.
It is.
I mean, you go to the VA, them people don't even, they know post 9/11. They don't know anything about pre 9/11 or Desert Storm.
Nope.
They don't teach it in schools. At least in my area, it's not really taught. And it's sad because our war was the first NATO war, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
And so,
I
go ahead, Rob.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're fine.
I was going to say, I didn't mean to cut you off, John. But I was going to say, that's what pisses me off, because I had, again, I'm in, Southern California, Temecula, 40 miles north of San Diego. But I've had, these Marines 20 miles from me at Camp Pendleton who sit there, and yes, I applaud them for going through enduring freedom and Iraqi freedom. I give them props for that. They were there, such as we were. But I told them, I said, my job there in Iraq was for a purpose, because of what Bush wanted and the coalition wanted. On the oil thing and everything else. I said, your job going over there was to make politicians popular. That's the way I see it.
I mean, really and truly, when we went into Afghanistan, I mean, after 9/11, I was ready to go back. I was fired up. I think my wife was scared to death. I was going to go, oh my God, Kevin's going back in. But because I was so angry. But, and I think we forgot about it.
I don't want to make it sound disheartening or rude or whatever, but when 9/11 hit, I was working for AT&T. I was living in Missouri, on my second marriage. I was working for AT&T, and I came home because they put us on hiatus because of 9/11 and everything. And my stepchildren from my second marriage, when I showed up at the house, they were questioning me about it, asking what was going on and this, that, and the other. And I told them, I said, it's not a big deal. We will take care of it. And they said, well, would they, call you back into combat to go over there for anything such as this? And again, not being disrespectful or disheartening or rude or nothing like that, I told them, no, they cannot call me back. For one, I'm too old, and secondly, I'm a combat vet, and thirdly, I hold a Bronze Star. So yeah, they're not going to tell me to go back into war because of those three traits. So I kind of laughed about that one.
Wow, that's pretty badass. A Bronze Star?
Yeah.
Oh man. Now, you know what? I don't know. I guess the way I look, this is just my perspective of it is, man, I would have been an old man if I would have went back in the Navy at that time. In my 30s. They would have looked at me and said, damn, my grandpa's on this ship. I would toss their little asses overboard. They've been like, hey, grandpa, come on over here. But I mean, it's true.
Well, in respect to you, and to be quite frank, my father spent 22 years in the Navy, and he was a senior chief. So I know for a fact no one's going to tell him to get his ass on a boat. Him being the senior chief.
Ship. Ship. Coast Guard has boats. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. Do not get mad at me because I said Coast Guard has boats. No, and you're right. Nobody messed with senior chief. Hell no, nobody messed with senior chief or master chief. Regular
Nope.
chief. We might have messed with a couple of
Yeah,
them.
maybe, yeah.
But I tell you, because we were also talking about the jokes we played on each other out there. And y'all had some pretty good ones. I was like, damn. But let me tell you, we had two really great jokes the Navy plays. So we would first, when a new guy came on, be like, hey, go get some batteries for the sound powered radio. Man, they look all over for them batteries. Then we would tell somebody, hey, go down. Down below decks, we need a BT punch. A BT punch is a boil. They go down to the boiler tech's room and say, hey, I need a BT punch. Well, the boiler techs, they hit them. And then were and that's the thing, like they're engineers. Them are some big ass son of a bitches.
I can imagine.
Down in 100 degrees all day, night, freaking long. I don't know how in the hell they did that shit, man.
But I don't like the heat. Yeah. Wouldn't be.
I could tell, John, when you came to Texas, I could tell you didn't like the heat.
I freaking hate the heat. So, hey, Rob, I got to go backwards. I got a question on something having to do with working on the Apache, because I told you earlier that I was thoroughly intrigued by helicopters, in particular the helmet you guys or the gunners wear. Is it the helmet? What is it that exactly moves the gun? Does the gun move with the helmet as you look, or is it the eyes, or what? How does that make the gun move?
On the helmet, on the back side of the helmet, we have what they call cat eyes. They're little diamond-shaped. I don't know what the hell you call, like reflectors or whatever, but they're on the back of the helmet. And behind the gunner seat and the pilot seat is refractors that link into a computer system. And basically the front cabin and back cabin, because it's separated by a partition between the gunner and pilot, the whole cabin, front and back, is bombarded with infrared, and wherever they look at, the refractors in the back behind them, right behind the seats on both sides, left and right, picks up the cat eyes, and wherever they look at, the computer says, okay, he's looking that way, he's looking this way, and the gun, the 30 millimeter below, when they activate it, when they go to gun arm, the gun will pick up through the computer system. There's many acronyms that I would go through, but I would lose.
Right.
Okay. He could look at the target, and that gun would turn and point at it.
Yeah. Because if you look at the Apache, if you go on YouTube, and there's an acronym called IHADS, IHADSS. It's called an Integrated Helmet Acquisition Designated Subsystem.
I want one.
Yeah, and it's that little optical tube that goes over their eye like this, and they see crosshairs in that optical, and that is all related to the computer in the fab, the forward avionics bay. That goes in the computer, and that transfers information to the gun and the weapon system. So when the pilot flips on the IHADS, the IHADSS, and turns it on and puts it over his eye, he sees crosshairs in front of his eye. Where he looks at, that gun turns.
Okay, does he press the button? Or squeeze the trigger?
There's a trigger on a cyclic, and there's a trigger on this ORT, an optical relay tube.
I want one.
Which is an ORT, or an optical relay tube, is a big box with a tube that goes down, into the front of the helicopter, into another system. But all information is transformed from that to his IHADS, to his helmet, to the computer. Everything is done right there. And
okay. So here's my next question. For anybody out there listening that flies these things and needs a co-pilot to jump on board with them, put the helmet on, press trigger, please give me a call at any time. I'll give you my cell phone number.
That would be,
damn well nobody's gonna answer to that call. They're gonna be like that.
Yeah, and trust me, before Desert Storm, all the shit was classified, but after the war, it was declassified. So I can now talk about it.
Oh, that's badass. Well,
Now,
John,
is there a? No, I was going to ask one last question about the helicopters because I can go on, and I won't because we got other things we need to talk about. But is there something? Is there like a silent mode or something that can decrease the volume that the helicopter's making of noise, or no?
No, not really. It's only excuse me. It all is based on the manufacturer. If you look at and I got another story based on that. If you look at a Navy helicopter or a Marine helicopter, you can hear those guys a mile, 15 miles away. You can hear them coming.
they call them the Navy.
Oh,
Because of the type of blades that they use. The Army, they use a different type of props. I'm not a mechanic. I am not, I have no clue about their propulsion of it whatsoever, but based on my observation, they use a different type of prop, for the helicopters. And the Apaches are much more quieter than a Cobra from the Marine Corps or from the Navy, and a Huey. Yeah,
so I asked that question because when I was in the desert, I swear to God, now maybe there's other noise around and I just didn't hear it, so it was being muffled. So I thought these son of a guns were in these helicopters. I mean, we, engineers, we would come up, we would, we all need, before we had made your outhouses, we'd cut a hole in a seat and go out. And these guys, all of a sudden, I'm out there and I hear a bunch of wind, and they'd come up and looking down at me and laughing and pointing, and I'm out there trying to do business, and they're laughing. But I didn't hear them. I'm like, where the hell did y'all come
they
from?
can see you shitting.
Well, yeah. If you want to be that graphic, yeah.
If anybody has pictures of that, my email address is kevinsimon@go4sideeffects.com.
Nobody's gonna have that. Nobody wants pictures of
Okay,
that.
so when you got out, we're gonna jump ahead right now. So when you got out and you started going to the VA, how did the VA treat you in California?
Like shit.
Well, that was a great explanation of it right there. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that on our program. They're just like, not good. You're like shit.
No, seriously. When I got out in '97, I did not deal with the VA whatsoever. I immediately I got out when I got out of the military. I joined the sheriff's office in Florida, and at the same time, I joined the fire department. So I was moonlighting both jobs at the same time, and I really did not deal with the VA until 2005 when I joined AT&T as a fiber optic tech, and I started dealing with the VA, and they started throwing excuses back and forth with me about certain things. And so I'd go to VA and go see a doctor for a particular excuse, whatever, and they would prolong it. And this went on and on and on until I moved out here from Missouri to California back in 2010. And 2013, my girlfriend, who I live with right now, and she's an Apache mechanic. And matter of fact, she's in the other room. She's in the living room right now. I mean, I can scream at her and have her come in and introduce herself if you wish. But she made me go to the VA in 2013 to the VA in San Diego. And I fought and I fought and I fought with them forever up until 2015. And they kept coming with excuses. And finally, they rated me at 20. And I left it at that. I said, okay, fine, I'm done fighting. And then she kind of got pissed at me and had me, go forward with it, which I did. And right now I'm at the 40, but like I had mentioned earlier, I'm going through the PACT Act, and I'm dealing with that shit now. So
Yeah, it is a lot more easier. I mean, I'm finding when I'm talking to vets, it's taking longer, but it is a whole lot more easier to get approved. But your doctor still don't know shit about it. But there's a few things that I have learned. So I went and did a sleep study test 2 Mondays ago, and I did it from an outside doctor instead of the VA. And it was in a safe area that had no gunfire. So I was pretty impressed. And it wasn't far from my shop, and they came in. Well, she calls me on Monday, says, we need to have a good conversation. Can we, go viral? And I'm like, yeah. So we went, and she said, look, you have the worst case of sleep apnea I have met in a veteran so far. I said, well,
Really?
yep. I just had one 2 years ago. And she goes, how they did not catch this, I don't know. She goes, you woke up in an hour 48 times an hour. You were waking up.
oh shit.
I was like, well, what do you mean
Jeez.
waking up? Like, she said, your eyes would open up and you would. And she said, your legs moved 97 times per hour.
Jeez.
Your um, breath intake, whatever they call it, the oxygen,
Right.
dropped all the way down to 72, and it would stay there for a while, and then it would come back up and drop back down.
That's not good.
She goes, how do you sleep? And I was like, well, apparently, I guess not very good. And she says, but what's weird is the positions you sleep in. I was like, what do you mean? She said, well, you had your hand on your head like this, or you did weird things. She goes, it's just, you're not getting any sleep. And I said, okay, so, and I'll tell you what, this was done in the Woodlands, and I was very impressed with the sleep apnea place because this doctor really cares about vets. This probably been one of the first doctors I met so far that cares about vets as much as she has. And so I got to go in. They're going to put a CPAP on me, and they're going to do some regulating stuff and see how my sleep goes, hook me back up. But she was like, I don't know. She goes, that's why you're tired all day. That's why you're this. And I'm like, I don't know, shit. I mean, so it's nice that outside people, like, she understood what vets are going through from Desert Storm. She talked to me a lot about it. And so I was really impressed. Along with my kidney doctor, real impressed. My neurologist, I like him. I'm kind of impressed. My primary care is okay and everything, but everybody else is just weird. But the one thing I'm learning about vets and now is when they go do these sleep study tests, they're not doing it properly. There's actually a part of the machine that extra stuff they can put on that really tells what's going on with a vet or with anybody. But the VA doesn't use it. I learned that.
Of course not. No.
It's like, okay, so let's do everything half-ass. That's exactly what I'm finding out. Everything is being done half-ass. You can go get an MRI. 90% of the time you go in there, they do not use contrast.
And that's been my argument with my girlfriend here. Like I said, she's, from military, and she works, for the government at the hospital, at Pendleton. And I told her over and over again, fuck the VA, because they don't give a shit at all whatsoever about us nonstop.
Well, I mean, here's one thing. So I talked to a vet, and she's like, okay, so I put this claim in, and it got denied. Even though her record shows that she even had it in the military. And they still are denying it. over and over and over. And this is where the bullshit needs to stop. She broke her back while she was inside the military. And she has nerve damage done to it and everything. And they're telling her that, okay, it is connected, but 0%.
Yeah, that can.
She walks hunched over. I'm like, what the foobar and shit is that? You like that, didn't you, John? Foobar. There you go.
Yeah, well, the connected at 0% is irritating to say. It is, but it's a rating, which it is. Unfortunately, it is a rating, and it's extraordinarily frustrating. So when you came back from the golf, Rob, what were go backwards here in conversation? What were some of the first things that you noticed that you were having issues with, if you don't mind?
Oh, my attitude, problems sleeping, and going back on what Kevin had said, when I was in Missouri on my second marriage, I went to see two doctors, matter of fact, because my ex-wife kind of diagnosed, she was a CNA, and she kind of diagnosed this, and she recommended I go see, a couple of different doctors, which I did. And both doctors, one of them said that I had borderline PTSD, and the other doctor said that I had full-blown PTSD because of what I had been through. And when I went to the VA and presented this to them, the VA said, no, you don't have PTSD. Now, going on that story, if I may, I don't like talking about what I've been through during the war, because one story that I had to go through during the war was when a couple of my pilots in OH-58, a pilot and an AO, aerial observer, decided to sneak back to Saudi Arabia from Iraq during the war to do a PX run, and they in the middle of the night hit a sand dune and flipped their copter, and it killed both of them. And
wow.
they were being stupid, and they're like I said, they were being stupid, and they snuck back to Saudi Arabia to do a PX run to get munchies and everything else. And the pilot was killed on impact. The AO, aerial observer, he crawled like 100 meters before he finally passed. And me being a squad leader, I had to take 8 of my guys out there and recover the copter and the bodies. And secondly, again, if you go back on Facebook and type in 4229 AAHR, and particularly 943 helicopter, or that was my tail number, that was my helicopter. And after the war, when we came back from the war back to Germany, 943 was my copter. And I had 2 pilots get killed on night flights because the equipment that I was in charge of during flight, the pilot's monitor in front of him, which controls the PINVIS, which is called, a pilot night vision system, had a channel on the screen go blank. And he thought it was a high tension power wire, and he went to fly below it. And when he did, he actually flew into power wires.
Oh, man.
And when they hit it, he saw through his iHads late at night, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, a cliff with a slope going up on his left, and he thought that he was going to bank to the left and belly flop on this cliff, on the upward slope above the cliff. But as he was heading that way to belly flop, he lost power and they face planted into the cliff, killing both pilots. And they said because it was my equipment, they were going to nail me for murder, two charges and whatnot. So yeah, I have PTSD from that shit. So
man, I'm sorry to hear that, brother. And I mean,
yeah.
It is amazing though how they can sit there and say, "Well, I'm going to pin it on this. I'm going to pin you on it."
Yeah, exactly.
They could have pinned a lot of shit on me.
Yeah, yeah, it goes under the friendly fire kind of crap, And even though I was dropped because they found out that during flight that the equipment had failed, and I was cleared of all charges, for 2 counts of murder. And that's part of my PTSD. I won't talk about the shit I dealt with when I was an MP in Kuwait.
right.
That I won't talk about.
And I completely understand that. I mean, that to me, I can't say I totally understand. I know where you're coming from because there is certain things. I mean, even John would tell you there's stuff I probably don't even know that John went through. There's probably stuff John doesn't even know I went through. I mean, for me, I think the biggest thing for all of us is we're now connecting, we're getting together, we're sharing our stories, and we're helping one another get through whatever we're getting through. I
Right.
mean, and everybody, it is funny. Even though the show is about Desert Storm, everybody has a different story. Everybody has something different that happened to them or that they went through. I work my ass off. That's one thing about it. Supply ships work their ass off. I don't give a shit what anybody says. If you've never been on a supply ship, you can kiss my ass. We supply guys work their ass off. Engineers in the Army, I'm not quite sure if they work their ass off, but apparently they do get pictures of them taking a shit. I love it. Or a helicopter watching them. John, you never should have told me that because that may come up in every episode.
Oh my goodness.
But what you went through being with a helicopter and then being an MP, you got to see 2 different sides of the Army.
Yeah, and yeah, it's complete, both sides of the spectrum. It was, and what got me as an MP, and I remember one day as an MP in Kuwait, we're doing, building searches, and we came across a squad of IR, Republican Guard. And when we took them into custody and started interrogating them, I was talking to this one guy, Iraqi guy. And keep in mind, even though I'm, Army, blah, 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 this, U.S. Army, this, that, and the other, I come from a German descent, and English is my second language. So this Iraqi that I took in custody and handcuffed him and started, taking down his information, interrogated him. This guy spoke English better than I did.
Wow. Okay.
And while I was talking to him, it turns out he told me that he was a professor at Harvard.
Huh. Wow. No kidding.
And I asked him, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And he's told me that he was told that he received a letter from Iraq stating that if he did not come back and fight for the motherland, that his family would be killed.
I have heard of that. And even if you watch the Band of Brothers, because that's based on a true story, there was a guy that I saw in there similar.
Yeah.
His whole family was called back.
And he's from Iowa.
Yeah. Okay. And everything. And I thank y'all. I mean, I have a new. Oh my God, I'm about to say this. This is gonna hurt so bad. I
Say it.
have a new profound respect for the Army. Oh God, that was hard. And and the Marines. Oh my, oh God, that's hard. Okay. Woo. That's the hardest damn thing I've ever had to say. But I mean, no, I'm telling y'all, man, after what I saw, I'm so glad I joined the Navy. Hell no. I'm telling y'all, I did not want to get shot at. That's the whole reason I went into the Navy. The whole reason I went in.
I got two stories about the Marines and the Navy.
Oh no, here comes a damn joke. Son of a bitch. Oh, go ahead, lay it on us.
When I first moved to California, I worked at Pendleton for the Department of Navy as a contractor for working on their LCACs, the hovercrafts. And a lot of the contractors were former Marine, just got out, transitioned from the Marine Corps to civilian world, working as mechanics or whatever on LCACs. And if you guys don't know what an LCAC is, it's a landcraft air cushion. That's what LCAC stands for. But I worked with them, as their logistics person, and they found out that I was Army, and knowing that a lot of these guys were Marines, we'd give each other shit all the time, every day. They'd come into my logistics office and give me shit about being Army. And I told them, I said, yeah, you're a Marine. I applaud you. I appreciate your service. And they're like, oh yeah, we were in Desert Storm. You were nothing. And I said, no, my job was very important in Desert Storm. And they're like, what's that? And I said, my job was to drag your dead ass body off the beach.
Right.
Oh,
right.
ow.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Oh, I bet you they shut up, didn't they, after that?
They shut up, but what was funny is like a lot of civilian people who no military experience whatsoever thought that was funny, and they would jump into the rib poking.
Oh God, that's a dumb thing.
Yeah.
As a civilian.
Yeah, and the Marines would say, no, we can do this to each other. You don't think shit.
So we're getting to the end of the program. I really thank you for coming on, Rob. Man, you enlightened me about a whole bunch of things I wish I would have pressed a button on, and a helmet. I love it. John, always a pleasure. But I'm going to tell everybody before we get off, I have a joke. Another one. Yes, I have another joke.
All righty.
All right. So there was a Navy admiral, a Marine, what do they call it? What do they call a damn Marine officer? Army general, Marine general, Army general, and then the Air Force. Okay. So all these top dogs are sitting around the table, and they're talking about who has the best and the baddest ass force. The Air Force guy goes, we got the best. And they're like, bullshit. He goes, come on. So they drove down the Air Force base, and he looks at this pilot and said, hey, get out of the airplane. I want you to go 35,000 feet, jump out without no parachute. That guy in the Air Force gets up there, jumps out, lands on the ground. They're like, damn. Army guy goes, General's like, let me show y'all something. He goes, come over here. He goes, Private, I want you to get your ass over there. I want you to jump in front of that tank and let it run you over. That son of a bitch did it. They're like, now that's impressive. Oh, the Marines like, I'll tell y'all what, I got one better than that. Corporal, get over here. He took out a hand grenade, threw it out there. He said, jump on it. He jumps on, blows himself up. They're all like, now that's badass. Navy Admiral just shook his damn head. And he goes, come on. They go up there. They go to his ship. At the very top of the mast was a boatswain's mate. He looks up there and he's painting. He looks up there. He said, boatswain mate. And he goes, yes, sir. He goes, unhook your harness, dive head first right onto this deck. That boatswain mate looked down. He's like, sir, fuck you. Turn around. He goes, now that's brave. That was a good joke, everybody. That was a good joke.
It
You'll get
was.
it, if you're a civilian, you just look it all up. But no, yeah, I want to thank everybody for listening. I mean, that was a great night with you, Rob. I mean, I learned so much. And
appreciate it.
I learned that I wish I would have went in and got to play with buttons and an Apache and everything.
It's a badass helicopter.
It is. But I want to thank each and every one of you. Rob, hang on with us. We're going to go into after the show. I want everybody to have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Go For Side Effects. If you have a story or you would like to share or just come on with any comments or questions, please email me at kevinsimon@goforsideeffects.com.